Hello everyone, Aaron here with another more of a pen revisit. I've already done a review on the Wing Sung 626, but today we're going to kind of revisit that pen and talk a little bit about the new colors that they have launched. Now, of course, this pen is a homage pen to the Wing Sung the Sheaffer Balance, specifically the Sheaffer Balance 2, if I'm not mistaken. And those were pens that were released in the 90s. And just to give you guys perspective, I actually have a couple images that I'll pop up here on the screen for you. And the first one is actually kind of a nice lineup of some of those colors. And you'll notice, you of course see the blue color right here, kind of in the middle next to the green, and then of course you see the brown one. Now the brown to me is definitely a different color, but I think they've done a fairly decent job mimicking some of the colors of the Sheaffer Balance pens. Now in addition to that, I will show you guys a picture of the pen kind of somewhat deconstructed and taken apart. So we see the barrels off, the caps off, and we can actually see that nib, which you'll notice, of course, it has that beautiful standard two-tone Sheaffer nib with that heart-shaped breather hole. And then, of course, you can tell that it is a cartridge converter fountain pen. Now, mainly showing you those images just to kind of give you an idea of the comparison between these pens and that. Now, clearly, these are not the same quality. They're not the same brand, none of that. But at the end of the day, they're trying to mimic that idea, and I think they've done a pretty good job with that. Now this is my original one that I did a review on, but we're mainly going to talk about this one right now. So I'm going to put the blue one off to the side, and we'll take a look at this new brown color. Now it definitely has some decent chatoyancy to it. It's an attractive material. You know, I'm not like a huge fan of brown, but I thought this one would be really interesting or really nice to own. They've got, of course, other colors. They have the cherry color, which to me is kind of like a pinkish color. They have now the sky blue, which I think is another really nice color. And I think I think it's just this one and the other two. And if I'm wrong on that, you guys can correct me. Now these are retailing for around the same price, typically between $25 and $30, which I paid about $26 for my blue one, and I paid, I think, $29 for this, so around the same price, not a huge price difference. First thing you'll notice, of course, this has a gold dot. Everything else about the pen besides the color is the same. The clip is exactly the same. It's got that vintage Sheaffer clip on it. It's got your double bands like most Sheaffers. I will say, one nice thing about this pen is the uncapping of the pen is much smoother than it was on my original blue pen when I received it. And that part I'm appreciative of. Now we'll see that two-tone nib. Get this to kind of focus for you guys a little bit. Turn off a little bit more backlighting. That's better. So getting that to focus. Now, of course, you see that heart-shaped breather hole. We see the two-tone nib. Now, question might be, is it the exact same nib as the original Wing Sung launch? And essentially, it is. Get these to focus. There you can kind of tell they're really the same nib. Fine nib. It writes like a fine nib. You know, one thing that I do like is the fact that the sections are the same material, which I think is nice. One thing that's a little bit different, you'll notice that we have that white nib holder here and the black one over here. I did see in a couple reviews that there were some quality concern issues with the original Wing Sung 626. I saw a couple where those white portions had broken. I don't know if it was from removing the nib or what that was from. And taking this off, we've got the same exact converter setup that we have on our original Wing Sung 626. Everything here is predominantly exactly the same. So there's really no differences at all. And again, I'm not gonna do any sizing comparisons or weights or measurements or anything like that. I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the pen. Now we are going to revisit this blue one for just a moment. And this one, of course, is just, I think, a gorgeous material. I've really polished this one. I've actually put some Renaissance wax on it and really buffed it out, and it of course makes for a very nice, attractive look. Now, one thing with the Wingsung 626, and this is, we can kind of revisit this pen. I would say it's the build quality is not that of a Pen BBS fountain pen or anything like that. So one thing you may not be able to totally tell, but this cap here is a little bit crooked. The threads, ever since I got them, the moment I got them, they're extremely shallow, and they have kind of this grinding type sensation, and the cap doesn't line up perfectly. And that's been an issue with this pen from the moment I received it. Now, I didn't return it, obviously, because at the time, well, I would have just pretty much be getting my money back. Now, in addition to that, this pen also, the converter that it came with actually broke. And you'll see I actually have a Parker converter on this pen. I did not have another Wingsung converter that would fit this. I thought one of my Delight converters would fit it. I tried that. I tried several different converters, and the only one that fit properly, I'm having some focus issues right now. There we go. Was this Parker converter. So got this one to fit, and it seems to be working well. So really, in essence, that is it for the pen. You kind of see again the parts of the pen, see the colors. I'm not going to go extremely in depth because I've already done a full review. I will do another writing sample so you guys can see this pen in action, or the nib in action. But all in all, I think, again, I'm very impressed with this brown one. It's very, very attractive. Seems to be a little bit better as far as quality. And again, I think that was just because I got probably one of the last one of these initially from that initial launch. And I don't think I got probably the best pen, but the materials are still very attractive on this pen. So up next, guys, you will see a writing sample, and then we'll finish up from there. See you in a moment. All right, we are back, guys. Now, one thing I will mention, it's another little bit of a downside to this pen is at times, if you don't write with this pen for a few days, the nib definitely will give you some hard starts. It dries out very easily. And, you know, looking inside the pen, I mean, it has an inner cap liner, and, you know, I don't know if that is an issue from the threads. I will say that these threads on this one are much better. And I'm having focus issues again. I've never had focus issues like this before. So these threads to me are better. They're still nice and shallow. They're not sharp at all, but they are better, and I think a little bit better quality. But I still have the same issue with the nib drying out at times. So it's something I definitely wanted to mention. Now, if that happens, just, of course, flood your feed with your converter. Just kind of push some ink down. And then generally, once it starts writing, I don't have any issues after that. So this is the Wingsung 626. And the ink that I am using, I honestly cannot remember, but I'm about 99% certain it is a Birmingham ink, and you can see it right here, and that is the Cary Furnace Pig Iron. It's like a really long name. It's a very nice brown color, which I really enjoy this ink. Sorry, I was zooming out, zooming in, just to see if I could get it to focus a little bit better. All right, so we'll do a quick writing sample here for you guys. This nib is much smoother than my original one. I did write with this earlier, so I didn't have any of the drying out issues. I will say when you first start writing with it, it really puts down a nice patch of ink, but the more that you write, I think that the feed, you don't know if it's just a feed issue, but it does get drier. It doesn't skip or anything, but it does get drier and doesn't give you that initial gratification that you got when you first started writing. So I did want to mention that as well. Like right now, I'm sure everything, it looks really nice, but it's not going to be extremely consistent like it is right now. So I think that's something I definitely should mention. Do some loops so you guys can see that. This nib is just a little bit soft. Like you can kind of get some line variation, as you guys can tell, but it's not meant for that, of course. This is just a standard steel nib. It's not meant for anything as far as like line variation, and I'd be careful pushing this nib too much, as you could do damage to it, obviously. So there is that. Do kind of a quick little wetness test. There, you see that. This is, again, not a nib. I've tried to do reverse writing with this. It's very scratchy, so it's not something I would recommend for reverse writing or anything like that. But really, in essence, that's it. Fairly smooth nib. Doesn't, you know, gives you some feedback. It is a fine nib, of course, so it does give you some feedback. But overall, the nib writes well. I mean, it performs well. Just bear in mind, if you have it sitting for a few days, and it is going to dry out. And I don't know, again, if that's just an issue with the cap liner or what it is, or if it just doesn't seal up, but it will give you some hard starts at times, which again can be a little bit frustrating. This is not a pen that I would recommend for everyday carry. You know, it's going to retail you, again, around $25 to $30. I think this is a very cool pen. I think it's very attractive. I think it's interesting to have, maybe even, if you could say have it as a collector's item. I mean, I'm happy with them, but they're not pens. You know, once this probably, I use up the converter, I'm probably not going to refill it for a while. I will put it in my rotation at times, but it's not a pen that I would use necessarily for everyday writing. Of course, it is that standard cigar shape. It fits nice in the hand. I actually, even though the section's on the smaller side, it is comfortable to hold. So there's pros and cons to the pen. Is it my favorite pen? No, but I still enjoy the pen. I think it is a very, very cool pen. I don't think you would be tremendously upset if you purchased the pen. Now, if you purchase this to be your primary pen of use every single day, I would tell you to go a different direction. That is the one thing I would say. All in all, hope you enjoyed the review. This is, of course, my second one that I own now. I'm very tempted to get that sky blue color. I really like that color, but we'll see what winds up happening. Real fast, before we conclude this, I wanted to show you everyone. I got this in a few days ago, but this is that Moonman M6, and oh my goodness, this is a cool pen. So stay tuned. I've got a couple more reviews that I need to do before this one. Probably our next one will be the M300, more than likely, because I've had that now for a while. I haven't even inked it up yet. So we'll do a review on that, and then we'll probably knock out the M6 review. So until next time, everyone, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.